and welcome back to my channel. So I am super excited about today's video because I'm going to be telling you guys how to grow your glutes, and I am going to be giving you the ultimate glute workout for beginners or advanced. So if you don't know, I have grown my glutes a lot. I'll add pictures as I'm talking, but I'm just going to give you guys tips, things I've learned, and just give you guys a rundown on how to grow your glutes so you can get those glute gains going. I've literally written down so many notes, so hopefully I don't miss anything out, but we're just going to jump straight into the video because there's quite a lot to cover and this is probably going to be a long video already. So the first thing I want to talk about is your eating. When I started the gym, I knew what calories was, but I didn't really understand them, if you know what I mean. I didn't know how much they affected the way you look, like whether you can gain weight, lose weight. So first we're going to talk about a calorie surplus. So a calorie surplus, for those of you who don't know, is basically where you eat more calories than you expend in order to gain weight. People usually go into a calorie surplus when they are trying to build muscle, so they usually refer to that as a bulk. Of course you can grow muscle in a maintenance or deficit, although I would recommend, if you want to grow your glutes and you want to see the best results, eat in a calorie surplus. Quick side note for those of you who don't know, I didn't tell you guys, a deficit is where you basically eat less calories than you expend, so in order to lose fat. And a maintenance is where you maintain your current look, basically. It will be hard to grow your glutes in a deficit, so unless you're a beginner, I would say at least eat in a maintenance because you probably won't see barely any glute growth. A maintenance will be fine, you can see muscle growth in a maintenance, but like I said, if you want the fastest, most quickest results, eat in a calorie surplus. So I have personally been on two bulks. My first bulk I was on was in November 2020 and it lasted till around February, March time. And my second bulk I started in December 2021 and I finished it recently in March. So on my first ever bulk I just ate in a surplus of around 500 to 150 calories. So basically where you have your maintenance calories, you add about 250 to 500 calories and that makes a surplus. Obviously you could do like 100 if you wanted, but I thought the bigger the better. I had amazing results from my first bulk. I gained barely any fat, like I wouldn't even say I gained much at all. Like my muscles just grew really. I was eating good and I was eating nutritious meals, which is important because on my second bulk I just was eating foods for the purpose of filling up my calories. So I was in like a 500 calorie surplus, and for example if I had like 500 odd calories left to eat, then I'd be like, oh, I'll just fill that up with like a big bar of chocolate or something. Whereas on my first bulk I would make sure I was eating nutritious. So I would definitely say my second bulk was more of what people refer to as a dirty bulk, where you eat foods that are not usually considered clean, if you know what I mean. And on my second bulk, the second time around, as you can see, I did gain a lot more fat. So that could have had something to do with it. The reason I'm telling you guys this is because if you do go on a bulk, make sure you're not just filling out your calories. Make sure you're eating clean, because obviously I think the way I ate different during this bulk, it definitely affected like how much fat I put on, because obviously I upped my calories the same amount. Let's get a little summary of my first key point, which is a surplus. Sorry, I'm looking at my notes to make sure I don't forget anything. So if you want to grow your glutes, I recommend eating in a surplus. Eat nutritious meals. Don't eat food for the purpose of filling up your calories. Of course, balance is key. You should never deprive yourself of food. If you're fancying that bloody chocolate bar, go have it. I never stop myself from eating things I love. But eat more mindfully. Don't just eat for the sake of filling up your calories. If you're a beginner, it is possible to get some glute growth from a deficit, but I do recommend at least a maintenance for more effective results. I know a surplus is scary to most people, although trust me when I say you will see results so much quicker. You will be out of your comfort zone, I can't lie to you, I hated myself on my last bulk, but you gotta keep pushing, think of the end result, because look where I am now, living life. You don't even have to eat in a big surplus. Even if you wanted to add 100 extra calories onto your maintenance, that's fine, do that. I just want to note as well, after you have finished your bulk, like eating in a calorie surplus, the extra fat you put on, you take off. So you go in a calorie deficit in order to lose that extra fat that you might have put on your bulk. Okay, so now we got that out of the way, I want to talk a little bit about protein intake. So if you want to gain muscle, make sure you are consuming 1.2 to 2.2 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight. Protein will help with growth and recovery. Basically, without protein, you will not get sufficient results. Do want to note, you don't have to take protein shakes or anything like that. I personally mainly get proteins from my meal. I eat high protein meals, so like for breakfast I normally have bagel and egg, that's all got high protein. I normally have chicken for dinner and lunch, something to do with chicken and pasta, chicken and wraps. You can always get your protein in through your meals. You don't have to go out and buy protein shakes just because it looks cool, because you want to be part of the fitness crew. Like honestly, I barely have them. But if you are gonna, I do recommend this one. I personally don't really use it, but people from my family do. They love it when I get protein because they just bloody rob it all. But this is a lovely one from Women's Best. Going off on protein, I do also want to note that you don't have to take any supplements at all really. You get most of them from your diet, most of the vital ones you need. And some of them you produce in your body naturally, it just gives you a boost. I know a lot of people are curious about creatine, let me show you this. So I do take creatine. I did go through a phase where I stopped taking it, but recently I have started taking it again. So creatine is shown to have quite a lot of benefits. On here it says improves endurance performance, but some other people have said it's helped with muscle growth. For me personally, I find it helps me with my recovery in between sessions. And also people like to take branched chain amino acids. Here's the one I take. I always take these. So your BCAAs are usually found in things like meat, I got it written down here so don't mind me looking down, dairy and legumes, I can't say that, I'll put it here somewhere probably. But as it says here, BCAAs stimulate the building of protein in muscle and possibly reduce muscle breakdown. I think this also helps you recover quicker, which is a big reason why I take it. But of course, if you're in a calorie deficit, this is good as well, because I took this all the way through my calorie deficit, and of course because it helps prevent the breakdown of muscle, I thought it was good. So yeah. But like I said, you don't need to take supplements. If you don't have money to buy supplements, don't get them because you really don't need them. They're just there to help you. For example, if you really struggle to hit your protein intake, then maybe buy a protein shake. But first, try and see if you can squeeze it in your meals. So now we got the sort of nutrition side out of the way, I want to talk to you a bit about training frequency. I feel like for training frequency, you need to play around with it and see what you prefer. Generally, it's recommended 3 times a week is optimal for glute growth, although I recently have been doing 2 and I much prefer it. So when I was doing 3 times a week, I found by the time my 3rd session came along, I was never fully recovered. I couldn't push myself as much I would like, so I never really got the best benefits of that session. Now that I am doing 2 times a week, I find in both sessions I can push myself, I can go heavy, and most importantly between them I have the most recovery time. So if anything, I'm actually doing myself more of a favour by training them 2 times a week instead of 3. So I feel like you need to play around with it a bit. I definitely recommend doing at least 2, no more than 3. You do not need no more than 3. And I also want to note, a lot of people, if you're a beginner watching this, you probably train your glutes like every day. I know a lot of people do and there's nothing to be embarrassed about. Obviously you're a beginner, you don't know what you're doing yet, you live, you learn. But so many people, like beginners I know, will train legs one day, legs the next day. I used to do the same, but you don't want to do that. Leave at least a day between your leg workouts. You want to be able to recover, because the thing is, if you're not allowing recovery, you're not allowing yourself to grow. You need to recover and grow. Otherwise you're not going to recover. Then how do you expect that muscle to mend itself and grow? If you know what I'm saying. I need to stop saying that. I'm saying that too much. So yeah, in summary, train 2 to 3 times per week. Next, we are going to go on to training optimally for your glutes. So what I mean by training optimally is basically by adjusting or changing exercises, stances in order to target your glutes more. So for example, instead of doing a forward lunge, you would do a reverse lunge because that would be more glutes. Instead of doing a sumo deadlift, you would do a Romanian deadlift because that would be more glutes. Also, I just want to talk about sumo stances quickly because if you're probably someone who is on TikTok, you'll see there's a lot of arguments about whether sumo is good for the glutes. While sumo does work the glutes, it's not as optimal as an RDL. So it's not wrong, like sumo isn't wrong, but if you want to target your glutes most, go for an RDL, it will be a lot better for you. I was once someone who never understood what optimal training was, and I honestly think that's where a lot of my hamstring and quad growth came from, which I don't regret. I love my legs, they're probably my favourite part of my body, but if I could go back and change that, I would probably have a lot bigger glutes right now. So next, I'm going to talk about progressive overload, which is also something that I didn't start doing until a little bit into my fitness journey. Now this is an important one, because over time you might notice your workouts get easier, which is a good thing. You're getting stronger, you're getting better, you are improving. Your body's adjusting to the exercises or workouts you are doing. But in order to gain muscle, when this happens, you want to switch you up a bit, doing a switcheroo. So basically, progressive overload is basically when we progress an exercise. That can be through the amount of weight, amount of reps, amount of sets, decreased rest time, supersets, any advanced training systems. So when your body finds an exercise easy, switch it up. So for example, if you're doing hip thrust, 3 sets of 10 to 12 with 100 kg easy, you're hitting that 12 rep mark without fail. Like, you are getting it every single time. It's not hard, you don't really struggle. You are going to want to progress this, because if you are finding an exercise that easy, you're not working those muscles enough. Okay, so let's progress this exercise. We will add another 5 to 10 kg. So say now we are doing 110 kg. See how many reps you can hit then. If you struggle to hit 12 reps and you end up hitting 10 or 9, that's perfect. That's where you want to be, because you want to build back up to be able to hit those 12 reps easy. And then when that happens again, where you find 12 reps easy, you do the same thing. Add a bit more weight and repeat. Every 6 to 8 weeks, you should be switching up your workouts, whether that be swapping exercises around, changing your reps and set ranges. After around 6 to 8 weeks, that's most likely when your body have adjusted to that workout. I'm going to give you a little example. So the other week, my glute workout, I was doing like hip thrusts, RDL, and say reverse lunges. So instead now, my hip thrust reps were 3 sets of 10 to 12. So instead now, I am actually doing 4 sets of 6 to 8. It's because it allows me to lift heavier, because obviously I'm doing less reps, but I'm also adding more sets, so it's going to be hard and I am going to really struggle. I kept an RDL the same, but making sure I'm increasing the weight, and instead of doing reverse lunges, I've swapped them out for Bulgarian split squats because I haven't done those a while, so my body's not used to those anymore, so they're gonna find it hard. So that's just a little example. Remember, you don't need to completely change your entire workout, just little things like that. Even just like adding an extra set, removing some reps, it all makes a difference. You don't need to drastically change your glute workouts every 6 to 8 weeks. Just change it so you struggle doing it. I'm going to talk a little bit about structuring your glute workout as well, although I do have a video on that. So if you want to check that out, it'll be linked in my bio. So the first thing I want to talk about when you're structuring your glute workout is you don't need to have 10 to 15 exercises. Honestly, 4, 5, 6 is enough, as long as they're effective. I'm going to be showing you a good glute workout in a minute, so you'll see the kind of workout I mean. But literally all you need is 4, 5, 6 exercises. You don't need to do so many things I see on TikTok. That's another thing that really annoys me. But you just don't overcomplicate it, like I already said. Another thing about structuring your glute workout is always do your compounds first. So a compound exercise was basically like multiple muscles work at the same time. They're the exercises you're going to need the most energy for, which is why you should put them first. They're your main movements, the movements which basically the majority of your growth will come from. So you always put them first to make sure you can put 100% into them. And I recommend doing about 2 to 3 main compound movements. Always make sure you add a unilateral movement. If you don't know, a unilateral movement is basically a single leg movement. So for example, reverse lunge, Bulgarian split squats, all that fun jazz. Unilateral movements are not only good for growth, but if you're someone who struggles with imbalances, for example, one leg stronger than the other, these will help fix those. And finally, you want to add 1 to 2 isolation movements. So these are like movements that basically target one muscle more, if you know what I mean. So like single joint sort of movements. An example of those is like cable kickbacks. You always want to add them. I've seen a lot of stuff lately saying like, don't worry about your isolation, stick to your compounds. But as much as compounds are a lot more important, that doesn't make your isolations any less, if you know what I mean. You should still always add them. Next, I want to run over consistency a little bit. You're probably sick of hearing about consistency, but it's got to be said, you need to be consistent. You can't rely on motivation to get you to the gym. You need to be going week in, week out to the gym. If you're serious about getting the biggest bum ever, you need to be going every week. 2 times, 3 times every week. You'll have the best bum ever. If you do that, promise me now, do that for at least 3-4 months. Come back and let me know how big your bum is. I bet it's grown loads, okay? But yeah, just keep consistent, guys, because even on the days you don't feel motivated to go to the gym, think to yourself, imagine if I go today, how much that will contribute towards my end result. You will never regret a workout, you will regret not going. Never rely on motivation to get you to the gym, rely on discipline. Lastly, I want to talk a bit about overcomplicating your workouts. Too often I see people posting supersets, trisets, which some of them are good, but the majority of them are just made up little fancy sets to make you feel like, oh, I want to try that just because they look good, if you know what I mean. You don't need to do them. For starters, if you're a beginner, you really don't need to do them. You don't need to do that for a good few months yet. Like I said, while some of them are effective, most of them I see are actually useless. Remember, you only ever really need to stick to the basics, even if you're more advanced. I personally do different training systems and stuff, but only if I know they're effective. For example, one of them I done the other week for my glute workout. So basically I done 6 to 12 cast glute bridges into hip thrust for as many reps as possible, into an isometric hold for as long as possible. So this is a really good one. We're starting off with cast. If you don't know the difference between a cast glute bridge and a hip thrust, basically a cast glute bridge is a bit less range of motion and it'll target those glutes just a little bit more and maybe eliminate more use of the legs, but obviously it's still not entirely glute. No exercise really is, to be honest, entirely one muscle. There's always some other muscles, sort of the secondary muscle working. So basically, because you're starting off a cast, which is mainly going to fatigue the glutes, by the time you have done that cast and you go into hip thrust, your glutes are going to be tired. You'll only be able to carry on because in a hip thrust, obviously your hamstrings and quads are helping a little more for you to get that weight up. And basically, it's just going to put your glutes near failure. You're going to really struggle. I really struggle doing it if you try out this little tricep. But after that, then, once you really feel like you can't possibly push out another hip thrust, you hold it for as long as you can, and it's an absolute killer. When you come down from it, oh my god, I literally feel like screaming. It's so hard, but it's a good sort of tricep. That's a good one. If you're someone like me who's a bit more advanced in their training and you do want to add variety, then I definitely recommend you do that. But like I said, you don't need to. And beginners, you don't need to do any fancy stuff like that. Stick to your basics. Okay, so we basically run over everything I wanted to talk about finally, and now I am going to show you the ultimate glute workout. Again, this is for beginners or advanced. I will add little notes of things you can change if you're a beginner or if you're more advanced, but we're just gonna go and get straight into it. So to kick off the workout, we got hip thrusts. If your ultimate goal is glutes, definitely do hip thrust or some sort of hip thrust variation first. This will essentially pre-fatigue the glutes so that they will basically be working harder in our other exercises because they are going to be closer to failure. So make sure we are squeezing them glutes on the way up, that the movement is slow and controlled, and we're not using momentum to get that weight up. If you're a beginner, it might be a better idea for you to work in a higher rep range. So for example, 3 sets of 8 to 10, 3 sets of 10 to 12, something like that. So the hip thrust was a shortening exercise, whereas an RDL is a lengthening exercise. So they go perfect back to back with each other. An RDL is probably my second favourite movement for the glutes. They are so good. Some key tips: hinge back the hips, but do not go past your glutes active range of motion. So do not go lower where it looks like your back drops, because this will just make it more of a lower back exercise. Pretty please make sure you are keeping a neutral spine, so we don't want any back injuries over here. And put your weight through your heels and toes, because you don't want to go falling over. A nice tip I like to give people is think about putting your bum back against a wall. So it's not like you're squatting it up. As you can see, I'm clearly not squatting it, but I'm imagining my bum is trying to reach a wall. I've done 3 sets of 8 to 10, making sure again I am struggling to reach that 10th rep. I'm just practicing. So whilst my sister be's an absolute weirdo filming me put away the weights, I thought I would just come on here and put a side note about your grip strength. So when you're doing deadlifts, you might notice your grip strength fails before you actually feel like you are gonna fail. So for example, you feel like you can push out more reps, but you can't because of your grip strength. So if this sounds like you, definitely incorporate some exercises like dead hands into your routine, as these will all help improve your grip strength. You don't want to end up like having your grip strength stopping you from reaching those higher weights, because it's not fun. Like, my grip strength is so weak, I hate it. Like, literally look at me, I look like a zombie. This video is so unflattering, but next I done everyone's favourite exercise, Bulgarian split squats. This is a unilateral movement, another key movement you should be adding. I love these. As you can see, I've hinged slightly at the hips and I put my foot quite a lot further out than I usually would, and I've slightly externally rotated my foot. This will make it more glute focused. Here I am doing 3 sets of 6 to 8. I like to do lower reps because then I can do more higher weight and push myself a bit more with that. If you're a beginner and you struggle to keep your balance, use a lower platform for the back of your foot. You don't have to use a bench. So next we got hyperextensions. You might be looking at this thinking she's doing it wrong, but I'm not doing it wrong because I am targeting the glutes. As you can see, my back is rounded. This would normally look awful, but it actually basically takes away the use of the back in the exercise, so it's making it more entirely glute focused. Quite a lot of your hamstrings is included in this, but there's nothing wrong with that. Obviously you still want to be working your other muscles to get stronger. I like to do about 3 sets of 10 to 12 of these. I like to do higher reps because I feel like it's more of like a sort of burnout exercise, and these are so good for your glutes. A slight bend in the knee, slightly externally rotate your foot, squeeze your glutes as you're coming up, because I feel like mind-muscle connection is really important in this exercise. To finish off the session, we got glute cable kickbacks. A lot of people like to do a normal kickback, which basically targets more in the entire glute. But here I am doing 45-degree glute medius kickbacks, which is basically a side glute because I want to target that a bit more. Here I am doing 3 sets of 10 to 12 again. If you can see, if you're interested in doing 45-degree kickbacks, my foot kicks out at a 45-degree angle and then I bring it back in across in front of me just to get a better stretch on the glutes. I know this is the part most of you like to skip, but please do not skip your cool down or warm up for that fact. I didn't add one in this workout. But here I am doing stretches, which is basically targeting all the muscles I would have worked in my workout. It is so important to stretch, mainly because it reduces the risks of DOMS. In case you don't know, DOMS is delayed onset muscle soreness, which is basically is caused by not stretching after you've been to the gym, not warming up. So if like you're aching for like 3 days after the gym, then it's probably because you haven't stretched. But yeah, make sure you stretch. Flexibility is good, guys. It will help you when you're old and grey and can't get out of bed. So that's the end of today's video. I hope you have found this helpful. I've been dying to make this video for ages, and I know a lot of you have asked me to make it, and I finally got round to it. But if you'd like this video, give me a thumbs up because it helps push my video out to more people who might need my help. I'm manifesting for you that you're gonna have the best glute gains ever. Keep at it, keep consistent, and you will get there. I do want to quickly add, if you're interested in buying from Honor Active, which is the brand I'm wearing in today's video, or Woman's Best, which is the nutrition supplements I use, I do have a link for both in my bio. You can use the shop through to support me if you fancy showing me love. But for now, that's everything, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye!